All right. Welcome back to Game.Bot Game Presents Generation Dragons episode 12. Wow, I haven't said that full introduction in a long time. Steve, how's it going, good friend? How's it going?
Pretty good, my friend. It's been 2 days. It's been a
Yeah,
long time.
I know. We're just
Cheers.
pumping these bad boys out here. That's all it is. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, right? You're clearly dressed for the occasion, but that conversation we had after our little recording last time, we figured we'd deep go. Well, I won't say deep dive, but do a little conversation around why Star Wars is better than Star Trek. I mean, do a comparison of the two.
Yeah. All right. So before we get started, might have to do with my age a little bit and growing up next gen. Although, as a child, my hero was Luke Skywalker because that was perfect age for the movies when they first came out. A little young, but around then. But anyway, before we dig in to why Star Trek is better than Star Wars, why do you like Star Wars better, Clint?
Why do I like Star Wars better? I don't know, because Star Trek is pretty lame. No, I like the idea of Star Trek. It's just like the production quality of Star Trek was now. I never liked it. Like you could tell how bad or how good makeup was in Star Trek, right? Like, sorry, you got that. Yeah, that's really what it is. You could tell it's a TV production, like it's all that kind of stuff, right? When you look at like Star Wars, and I get it, 1977, like the quality of
Muppets.
the movie, but it was better though. Like Yoda is
That's
one.
arguable.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway, so why do you like Star
Like
Trek?
especially that thing in the cantina playing the music there and the floppy nose bouncing around and so Star Trek always I like better just simply because it's kind of real world tech, real world sci-fi. Like it's stuff that actually has been created, that the show has predicted, and it's a uh, a utopian view of ourselves in the future. Like in the whole future, we're not going to have all this need for war, even though they have a lot of war. But like, there's no poverty on Earth and other worlds. No, you don't. The economics are different. You're not basically trying to collect all the wealth you can. You're basically trying to better yourself in general.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good socialist show, Steve. I know, like you're just share
it's
your
very
wealth.
left
You
wing.
yeah,
Yeah.
you. But whatever. If you like that, that's cool. But I hear what you're saying, but you got to
It's whole
remember.
no need for want. Like look at all the slaves and bad things that happen in the Star Wars universe, and I like the overall grandeur scale of Star Trek over Star Wars. Meaning, in the Star Wars series and movies or shows, you're following just a group of heroes. Where it's really that's what it is. It's a hero adventure, and where Star Trek is very more open and grand. You are following the Enterprise or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
but
No,
was my reason anyway. I
but
like their utopian view of the future.
so that's the one thing, right? Like Star Trek does. You're right. It does align with way products are made and all that stuff. But you got to remember,
And it tackles social issues too, which is something Star Wars doesn't do, right? And maybe a little bit
well,
later,
it can't.
the
It
girl power and
can't.
stuff in them now. But
But it's you're talking movies versus TV. TV, Star Trek, they have to fill the space. Think of how many episodes of Star Trek there was that was just empty space. That was just like, hey, we're gonna
well,
follow
it gave
Kirk
a lot of,
here, do this or do that. Like,
but it gave a way to really get to know characters or even villains in depth. Like they're just so much more rich and just. Well, I think we should break it down instead of me just rambling about things and you rambling back. Maybe let's hit it with subjects. We'll go like ships, characters, tech, blah blah blah, and we can kind of hit different points and cut each other down, or agree in some cases, or disagree in most cases, probably.
yeah, yeah, no. So I get your character design, but you got to remember, and this is the one thing that gets me with Star Trek versus Star Wars. With Star Wars, you've got the movies, right? They never really did. We've got Mandalorian. Mandalorian kills all Star Trek TV shows in that same
I
level,
have to agree.
in that
Like so,
that same
Picard,
design, right?
Picard coming out, it's got great special effects, great, but it just doesn't grab me like the Mandalorian did. So
No,
I'll give you that.
right. So like
Uh,
that.
that said, there's like 10 Star Trek movies as well.
Yeah, and they are reviewed like some of the worst reviews in Rotten Tomatoes and all the other sites. Not all of them. I mean, there are some good ones. So I'm not going to say I can't
Yeah,
say
we
there
don't
aren't
talk
bad
about the
ones.
odd numbers in Star Trek, but yeah.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, so character development and stuff like that in Star Trek versus Star Wars is a bit different, right? Star Wars, they do it in 2.5 hours. Star Trek, they do it in a season. So like you can introduce more people. You can do this. You can do that, and that's where it comes down to like
Hmm.
comics and stuff like that, right? Where the characters are they're built out better in comics with Star Wars versus Star Trek. Now, I'm not saying I don't read Star Trek comics. I've read a couple here and there, but I mean just in
They're
general.
not on the same. I shouldn't say on the same level because the ones read are great. There's just not the same number. There's way more written about Star Wars over Star Trek on the
Yeah,
comic
yeah,
level.
yeah.
But there is a lot of novels and whatnot in Star Trek, especially older ones.
Mm.
But again, you could argue that with Star Wars. I get it. There's a lot of Star Wars novels.
Yeah, yeah. If you can
But
include,
okay, let's start from the top of my list, I guess. Um, sorry, am I losing you? You break.
oh
I
no,
keep losing
I'm
your
yeah,
volume.
yeah. No, I'm still around. Steve, keep talking. I gotta put my laptop on priority here. So, but we're all good, man. Keep going, keep going.
Sure. Just cut me off if I say something and I'm not hearing you just because you were dropping there. But characters. So, my opinion is just what we just talked about. There's more development in characters in Star Trek simply because they can. It's a TV show. They have a lot more time to develop them, build these relations and these things that go over seasons or even series to series with the characters. Like Riker's a great example. He's been like on every series there is since Next Gen. Like he's made an appearance in all of them.
Right.
But yeah. So for me, characters, I would say I know the captains in the show are way better than most of the characters in Star Wars. This is relatively speaking, though, because I know you can counter argue this pretty well. But yeah, that's
So
unless we start deep diving into examples, I'd say hand it to you. And
no, I
what do you think about the
mean,
characters?
well, that's what I was saying with with characters. You get character development and all that stuff. That it's different, and you got to look at it too, right? Like Star Trek is future based. Star Wars says long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Far,
So
far away.
so
Hmm.
it's old, right? Like it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be in the near distant future, or whatever. Like that's not what it
Yeah, it's
is.
another galaxy.
Yeah. So
It actually brings me to a point, though, with Star Trek. Even though it's supposed to be us in the future, they do a lot of bending and warping with multiverse and time travel. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Star Wars do time travel. And
because
I personally, I used to love the time travel, but now it's kind of like, okay, can't you just do whatever you want because of all the time travel?
well, that's again, but that's coming back to the whole future versus past. I mean, that's like comparing M4 rifles to the rifles we used in World War One. Like it's not the same, right? Like they both have laser guns, but they're different laser guns, right? Phasers and laser and and the oh man, I'm trying to blank on the Star Wars guns, but you know what I mean? Like
Proton versus photon
yeah,
torpedoes, and
right? Like
what's
that's
better, what's worse, who's got more destructive capability, I have a big thing with that. Like, anyway, when we get to weapons, I'll talk about it.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, so characters like if you go the expanded universe, and I'm not talking like the Star Wars novels expanded universe. I'm just talking just expanded universe in general. So if you go and read the Star Wars comics, you go and read the Star Wars novels that are canon, or even the expanded universe non-canon stuff. There's a lot of character development in that stuff, right? Which would align with something that could happen in a TV show. Now, if you take the Star Wars TV shows like The Mandalorian and even like Clone Wars and stuff like that, the animated stuff, they had decent character creation and stuff like that, and character backgrounds and good explanations on all that stuff. I mean, the one comic I'm reading right now is explaining Poe's parents and who Poe's parents were and how they were
Hmm.
involved with man, why am I drawing so many blanks? What do you call it now? Not the High Republic, the New Republic, and stuff like that, right? So like, it's just kind of cool that way. Just kind of cool.
Yeah, I really liked a lot. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Star Wars fan too, so this is going to be hard for me. But if I had to just pick one, for some reason, if the world was going to end and I can only pick one or the other, for me it'd be Star Trek.
Yeah.
But just even from like my big parties and theme parties and dressing up and that, it's always Star Trek.
This is true. You're picking the wrong one, but that's cool. Yeah. So let's. we'll jump into tech now. So with tech, again, it's tough because we're talking. Really, the technology you could do comparison on would be, hyperdrives and stuff like that, right? Like,
yeah, and sorry, I was cutting you off. There's just the tech just wins in Star Trek on every level, simply because they have things that Star Wars doesn't, like replicators, transporters, but everything in the show, except with the exception of teleporters, which is sort of based on tech, is based on real world science and tech. So when they'd write something in the show, they'd literally write technobabble and give it to physicists and whatnot to explain how this might work in real life.
Right.
So a lot of the tech is built on real stuff. The reason I say except for transporters, and this goes back to your point with special effects and budgets, the whole reason that transporter was invented is because they didn't have the budget to film them landing on the planet back and forth all the time. So like, how can we get them? Oh, beam them down instant. Right. Save all that money in post-production and adding things later.
Yeah, that's true. And again, like I was saying with it,
they don't even have holodecks in Star Trek Wars.
Yeah, but it's because it's damn old, Steve. There's not goddamn holodecks right now in the real world.
No, agreed, but they do have holograms. But I mean, if in Star Wars universe, they're so old, and like think of the old Republic, and then how they went all the way up to what they now, thousands and thousands, millennia of tech. Have they not been able to invent a lot of this stuff?
Yeah, I get that, but it's always like we can jump into the next piece here that ties in with lore. Excuse me. I mean, you look at if you look at the way it is with Star Wars. The Jedi and the Sith, and it's always been the Force, and it's always been tied in, right? That very religious style look to it, and then that's just kind of the way it goes with that side. Where they're improving the technology, but they don't want to improve it too quickly because it may affect how people believe in the Force and then believe in all this stuff, right? You can look and compare it to
my counter argument is if you're a war, wouldn't you want the best tech no matter what you could do? You're always like, look at the Death Star or even the the Superstar Destroyer, the one that Darth Vader's on. Like that, just great technology and like Star Killer Base as you get into the later movies and stuff. It's just crazy. But how come they haven't done some of the things that we have in Star Trek already that we're already seeing?
Because Star Trek is lame and Star Wars is better, and that's why. And they just don't want it in the show, in the movies. But no, I mean I get it. We're talking tech. Like
you make me think of this College Humor skit where Star Trek versus Star Wars. I saw it years ago, but I remember just with you saying lame there, like they blew up the Enterprise blows up the Death Star and he's like, Vader's floating through. Your special effects are lame. He's like, that's not the point. Lame.
It's true. It's very true.
So.
No, and I mean that's the thing, right? Like we're talking like so tech. I would give it to Star Trek. Star Trek has better tech, but it's only because it's future based, right? Like Star Wars isn't future. Star Wars is their build up to whatever. So their technology is better than what today's technology is, but not better than future state technology, right? So like it's. Mm-hmm. That's where it's like I'll give it to Star Trek, but it's only because of the age limit stuff. As we jump into lore, I can't see her. She's blocked by my phone. She's coming back.
Come here quick. Just say hi quickly and then run. Bye.
Talking about lore, yeah, I mean, like you gotta. Star Wars is more. It's very religious based, right? Like if you look at the grand scheme of stuff, like it's good and evil. You've got your two.
So I have to. I know where you're going with it, and I kind of have to agree. I agree with you given the tech to Star Wars, but the lore, Star Trek, sorry, but the lore that Star Wars has is just. It's always captivated me and captured me. the Jedi. I sometimes would argue, like, what the hell? It's just magic. Is it? What is it? What the hell are metachlorians, and why does everyone have it? So I thought that was kind of lame. But the whole lore of the the dark side, the light side, and then you have all the gray areas with the witches and stuff like that, and just I always thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And that. So, but when it comes to Star Trek and lore, it's just following the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Like you do have all these other shows that come, but the main themes: following the Enterprise, exploring, saving humanity, blah blah blah. Repeat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big difference between the two, right? Like there is lore to Star Wars. I mean, there's lore to Star Trek to an extent, right? With in Star Trek with the what do you call those guys we were talking about the other day? The Borg and things like that, right? Like
the Borg.
Right? Like there is lore in Star Trek, but nothing compared to the way it is in Star Wars. Because like think of how many different types of people there are in Star Wars, of races and stuff like that. That they go into the lore. Like if you can buy the comic books or read the books that go into the deeper depths of, the Wookiees and whatever, right? Like where Star Trek has that, like it goes here, but it just doesn't go to that next level, right? Like it stays in that spot.
Okay, hypothetical question. What would happen if the Borg invaded Imperial controlled space? Who do you think would win? And I have two theories on why it would flip one way or the other, but I want to see what you say first.
So I think the Borg would assimilate, or I can't say the word.
Assimilate?
Yeah, assimilate the a few, ships, planets, whatever. But as soon as Sidious started noticing that difference, or any dark side, I mean, even the Jedi, right? Once the Force sensitive people started sensing that people were either dying and just being turned off or whatever, how they would do that, they would be able to defeat them, right? They would use their mind control. They would blow up their brains with their mind. You know what I mean? Like stuff would happen. But that's how.
So I think you're kind of hitting onto the wild card. I think the Borg would wipe them out, except for small packets, because that's where they wouldn't get it. So it's just because once they start assimilating planets, the people's inhabitants start assimilating themselves because they become more and more. Like it's a domino effect. They can't really stop. And you can kill almost all of them. Is anything left behind, the Borg always comes back. I think their technology would just wipe out most everything. In the beginning, I think you'd see a lot of pushback against the Borg, but as they adapted and assimilated, they would just have the numbers and just keep going. Like I know how big the galactic senate is and the planets. It's like, I don't know, like 1 million planets, but in Borg space, it's something similar. It's just crazy numbers as well. So they have like a whole quadrant. But I think
I was just gonna say, which I get. With it, the only to me, it's the Force is where would make the difference, right?
Well, this is where my argument is. So I don't think it would make a huge difference simply because there's not enough Force sensitive people out there. That's why I think there'd be pockets of resistance, but it would always keep coming back. Where I see them having a big problem is being able to ever extinguish that. I don't think, for example, they'd be able to assimilate lightsabers because they were made with kyber crystals, which are sort of living element, if I remember, that's attuned to the Force. Okay. And if I'm right with that, it kind of makes me think of in Voyager with species 8472, where they had biochips and things like that, and the Borg just couldn't. They would just throw numbers and numbers and they would just keep getting blown up because they couldn't figure out how to assimilate it. Right. They do things differently than Federation would. They would investigate and try things where Borg just brute force tries to assimilate everything. So I think that's where it would be different. Like even the Death Star, I don't think would be assimilated by the Borg. Again, because it's based, if I remember right, off ancient Sith technology with kyber crystals, sort of like Starkiller Base when they're harvesting all that. And I think they wouldn't be able to wrap their minds around that collectively. So I think that's where you get like large pockets that they couldn't assimilate. But I think like a world like Naboo would just be, sorry, Jar Jar, you're now a Borg. Yeah, then what I think you would see is multiple Death Stars being made and just blowing up those planets. And I think you'd see the population reduced really quickly as of force sensitive people or led by force sensitive people are going in and wiping out Borg planets and Borg systems like that.
So
but I just see it keep springing back.
My question is,
at that point it'd be a back and forth.
My question is Imperial. You're saying Imperial space. We're talking Darth Sidious, Darth Vader, Imperial space. That's what you're saying, right? Mm-hmm. So no.
In the start of this, but my point was like I think they just start spreading.
Yeah.
And I just used Naboo as an example.
No. But I get that. But what
Imperial space is full of Sith and full of is what you're getting at. I just still don't think there's enough.
No. But the strength of the two of them, you got to remember, the two dark sensitive or the dark side sensitive force users.
You mean the Master and the Apprentice?
Is strong enough to take on a full kit of Jedi. You get what I'm saying? So as soon as a force sensitive person like Sidious or Vader sensed that something was off in their space, it would be a simple, we're going to send everything that we possibly can to go destroy the Borg. That's what it would be. And they would go themselves. They would do whatever they could to destroy them. Now, if we're talking, you're talking the original trilogy time frame, right? And not old High Republic. You're not talking Old Republic. You're not talking any of that stuff. Where there was a lot more force sensitive users in those times, right? I mean, I get it. I think they could. But they'd have to catch everyone off guard.
You need billions, though.
But
I just think you need billions.
Yeah,
I don't. Not hundreds of thousands, even.
So
billions to make a difference.
The dark side doesn't care how many people they kill to finish off what they are doing. So that's what I'm saying.
There's Borg though.
But that's what I mean. So the Borg could have already changed all these people. Assimilated all these people, and now here comes the 15. Star Destroyer Death Stars that they're just going to blow the crap out of them. You know what I mean? So that's where, or they're
well, that's exactly what I'm saying. They just start wiping people out.
Yeah, that's so.
Purge it.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have an issue with it because they don't question that, right? So I don't think it would happen that quickly. Sure, they assimilate 15 planets. What's that in the grand scheme of the galaxy, right?
I think they get more. I think it'd be a tougher battle. But again, what the hell? The Enterprise took them out by themselves, right? And so did Voyager.
Exactly. So actually, they're not that good, Steve. You just won the argument for Star Wars.
Well, you got to remember, you can't let the hero lose, or the show would be over. But yeah. All right, moving on. Droids.
So yeah, the droid conversation goes to Star Trek. And the reason why I agree with that is because, again, we're talking time frames, right? Future versus the past. And Star Wars droid, the closest things that you'd get to, what's his name there? Data, would be, cyborgs that they create, a Vader, but that would be it. He's not
so
a droid. He's
I was on your side with this until I got thinking about it, and Data kills. Data's better than anything in Star Wars, except for one line that I forgot about, introduced in Rogue One to SO. He's just super strong, super smart, got humor. He's almost like an assassin droid. I'd still would say Data's better because he's super strong and all this, and he's human-like and human-sized. But K2SO is pretty phenomenal when you compare him to any other droid in the Star Wars universe. You look at C-3PO, lame. He's a good translator, but that's all he really is good at. R2-D2 is awesome, but no one understands him. You need a translator. And then a lot of the other droids are just weird little bots and droids, and Star Trek had those too. If you look at the Star Trek: The Motion Picture, they had little mini droids and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still have to agree that Data takes the cake or that type of cyborg robot. But K2SO, man, he comes close. He's I love that guy.
Yeah, to me it's
All right.
to me it's the overall droid count, right? Like I would say the droids are better in Star Trek than Star Wars because they do have humanoids versus what there is in Star Wars, right? Like there is no real humanoid droids in Star Wars. There are,
So did you
but not a lot.
did you follow Picard? Did you watch the first season?
Yeah,
So if you look at that, that's basically what the Romulans are all against, right? Is androids taking over,
yeah,
like artificial life forms. That's essentially what the whole premise is. What you learn about the show, like the main character, she's an android,
yeah,
right? And now Picard's an android too.
yeah.
But yeah, but it just shows. It made me think of Mass Effect when they had like them reaching out in the last episode to some unknown,
Yeah.
AI race that would just come in and wipe out all life in the galaxy. What the hell?
Yeah.
Who was playing Mass Effect before they wrote this?
Yeah, really.
We don't need the Reapers. But so moving on, ships. That's one I think you're gonna disagree with me.
Yeah, because you're all hot and bothered by Star Trek ships.
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Some of the Star Wars ships are really cool. But I'll let you do your point because I'll just start rambling if I don't shut up here.
So with Star Wars ships, I mean they haven't changed much over the time frame over this series. Even you go from episode 1 all the way up to episode 9, they're more or less the same, right? They get repurposed again, but that time frame is only over 40 years versus centuries. The ships get them from point A to point B. They can blow things up. They have hyperdrives. I mean, the Millennium Falcon is probably the most recognizable ship in the world, even more so than your Enterprise that you're wearing there on your shirt, your chest. But yeah, I mean, again, it's so hard, man. You're talking like, what would the Canadian military of 1812 be like against the Canadian military of the 1940s, right?
I lost some of what you said there.
I said,
I'm guessing you're saying the military versions of ships?
No. What I said was the military versions, like you were comparing Star Wars to Star Trek and ships.
Okay. I missed half of that.
So it's just the year, right? Like you got to compare the military of 1812 in Canada versus the military of Canadian 1940s is completely different. The military of Canada in 1940s would destroy the Canadian military of 1812, right?
But the military in Canada from 1940 would destroy the military of 2021 Canadian forces. Yeah. So, I mean, what's left? But in all seriousness, okay, I understand your point. For me, Star Trek ships they're sexy. They look awesome.
Well,
especially
they all look the same with their disc and their sticks in the back, eh?
No, but there's just so many different. You don't have to stick with the Federation. You can have something as stupid as a square. Oh, I'm pointing here. I thought it was in the other room. Square cube, which makes sense in space. It doesn't need to be any shape. Or you can have something awesome looking like a Klingon warbird or bird of prey, a Romulan warbird. Which I never got why they both use the same name there.
Because of this,
I do get like there's a cross trade between I think it was the Klingons had warp drive, but the Romulans didn't. But they have cloaking technology, so that's kind of where that came from with the first bird of prey. But I'm just extrapolating a little bit on what I remember. I don't know, like the ships are amazing, especially when you get in the DS9 and you actually see fighters. So they start using these large ships as capital ships instead of exploration ships, and launching fighters to fight. So the capital ships are fighting, and so are the fighters. Like just sending in waves and waves of fighters, and because ships like the Enterprise have massive shuttle bays, they just use them to launch fighters.
Right.
And these like the Defiant, for example. By the way, I think the Defiant's a freaking ugly ship. Looks like a beetle. But I loved the design of it back in the time. Like when it first came out and had these phasers that went like rapid fire. My dad and I, and one of our bonding bonus, were like, "Holy shit!" watching DS9 when we first saw that. And but it was built just for fighting. It's tiny. There's no creature comforts on it besides like replicators. Other than that, meant just to fight, and I always thought that was a great idea. And because Star Trek until that point was always about happy ships floating around space, trying to meet everyone. So anyway, so ships. I'm going to say Star Trek. I get your point with the technology, back and forth. I would say the technology is comparable. And then to up your point a little bit, I freaking love X-Wings, Y-Wings. Love the way they look. Going back more to fighters and not to capital ships. But I just always thought they looked awesome. They're also the X-Wings aerodynamic, can hit an atmosphere, things like that.
Yeah.
I love that it has four things, but it's totally not related to Star Trek or Star Wars. But the best fighter ships, I think, period, bar none, would be Babylon 5's Star Furies. Just they have engines all over the place where they can flip every which direction. They're just meant for fighting. Battlestar would probably be the next closest with their Vipers, but then I'd move over to the X-Wings. But we're getting off topic. Moving on from ships.
Hold on here. You want to know? Let me get you go ahead about toys. I want to hear your point first, but I'm going to tell you what the best sci-fi ship is. So
okay.
You just keep looking for your stuff first, and then or you talk about the toys first, and not.
Why is it?
Too. Just keep.
Is there something that you're looking at?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. So.
Okay, so toys, I have to give it to Star Wars. It just, how many Star Wars toys I have here versus Star Trek toys. Just don't compare. The AT-AT, it's almost like a playset. It's so big. My Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
I'd have to look around, but just the Star Wars toys just kick ass.
Yeah.
The Star Trek toys were okay, but they're almost more for displaying, except for maybe like the, I can't remember, not Kenner or who did it, like the Star Trek Space Shuttle, which I do have, and stuff like that, or the figures, but they don't have the same big wow that Star Wars does.
Yeah. That I have to agree with. That's the one thing, right? Like Star Wars does have a much better. Well, it's their toys. They had a backing, right? Like Lucasfilms. Once the movies came out, Lucasfilms just killed it, and they partnered with the right companies and stuff like that. Where like Gene Roddenberry and all that stuff, like he just did his own thing, right? Like he did partner with like he did have his TV, like the studios that he partnered with.
Toys back in the day, but there's stuff like walkie-talkies and things like that.
It's not quite the same, right? So
Next Gen was the first really to have toys, and then after that, you really haven't seen a lot of Star Trek toys. I have a tricorder over there, things like that. God, I wish I could remember who made the toys. It's driving me nuts. But did you find that ship you're talking about ready with it?
Yeah, so it's it's either the Saber and the Longsword from Halo are much better designed ships. You use the
I do like the Longsword.
You use them in Halo Reach. They control well. They look good. Anywho, that was back.
Yeah, but I don't think they can flip like a Star Fury though. Because Star Fury can literally just 180 like this, every which direction, instant.
Hey
like
man,
it's just
however you move your joysticks of the controller, that's how you fly.
I was talking about like they can instantly stop on a dime and flip around. But anyway, I just always thought that was a great design because there was a thruster like on any angle, so you can flip any which way. I don't know if you could actually build something like that economically, realistically. Yeah. So many engines, or thrusters. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So merchandise. Merchandise goes right to Star Wars. Star Wars murders merchandise in that front, and even before Disney.
I can't even put up an argument.
Yeah, like
there.
I mean, I like the next things that we have here, like comics and novels. Same thing. I mean, I guess the more competitive thing on the novel part would be. Star Trek does have novels. You're right. They're nowhere near as many as the Star Wars novels. But then we're talking canon, where Star Trek doesn't have the canon versus non-canon stuff, right? So like Star Wars does now with the expanded universe, because at some point, Chewbacca turned dark and Luke Skywalker died. Kid was killed by like his son or daughter or something like that. Like so. The expanded universe, but yeah, the big one here for me, it's conventions that you have. So I know So Star Wars definitely has bigger conventions than Star Trek for sure. You know,
I don't know. So I was thinking about that because there's Star Trek conventions, but there's not Star Wars conventions to the same. But I could be wrong. I just thought now everything kind of gets roped into Comic Cons. Back in the day, I'd been to Star Trek conventions, and I never was to a Star Wars convention. So,
But
but you know,
that's because Trekkies had to find other Trekkies to hang out with. People just everyone likes Star Wars, so like you just talk to anybody and you like Star Wars. Well, and then like right, you got so like you don't do you is there a 501st in like something similar to a 501st
Squadron.
Yeah, like so right, you have the people, the cosplayers.
Sort of, yeah. There is.
So what everyone just wears.
Yeah, there is, and then there's all
and red
like
shirts
those Klingon
around,
groups and stuff like. You know, well, if they're red, they're just going to get shot. So why would they do that? Unless they run into the 501st because they're all stormtroopers, they'd never hit them.
Yeah.
But yeah, who would win in a fight like that? By the way,
I don't know. It would just be a draw. No one could win. Actually, you know what? I think
Playmates. By the way, that's
Playmates. Yeah, the ones that still make. Yeah, they still make toys. I think kids' toys, like little kids' toys. No, I get it. I mean, yeah, but you've got. Oh my goodness, what was the Star Wars? Star Wars has a freaking monsters convention now. I can't remember what it's called. Crap. Anyways, yeah, I get it. I mean, I know what you mean, but everything's started. I still think.
I think it's just dropped off. Star Trek's just dropped off in general.
Yeah.
Like, it was different in the 90s. You know, TNG was big, DS9 was big, Voyager was pretty big, and then it started to wind down around the 2000s. Even though Enterprise was a great show, it's probably liked it better than Voyager. Maybe DS9, but I did like it a lot. But yeah, it just after that we kind of died, and then we had to wait for the movies to start up, and
now it's back, yeah. So, and now it's got a good bit of a kick where Star Wars kind of stayed more for the most part, right? Because like really, it was the '90s where there was no Star Wars, right? Because it was.
And then you brought it in the mid '90s or so when they did the Phantom Menace, and
well, is that even mid '90s? I thought it was late '90s. I think it was like '98. It was Phantom Menace.
I could be wrong. I thought it was. You're probably right because I would have been at a high school. So yeah.
I think it was like 90, 98, and 99.
Might even be close to 2000.
Yeah.
But not quite.
Where Star Trek, like, and Star Wars has been constantly going, right? Since 77, there's been some sort of Star Wars thing around. And then it did kind of die off in the early 90s, you know, right after Return of the Jedi, but it came back, and then it came back hard, right? Because once George Lucas announced that he was making these other ones, it just came back so hard, and then people, you know, laughed at the Phantom Menace and Jar Jar Binks and everything, but it's so.
What do you think of the Star Wars Star Trek crossovers or Easter eggs?
What are you talking about? What referencing are you? What are you referencing?
So in the newer movies, like J. Abrams movies,
yeah.
Like with R2-D2 in Star Trek, for example.
I didn't even notice those.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of, not a bunch, there's a few.
But that's because it's J.J. Abrams, right? Which that bothered me, but I'm not. I liked both movies, but that just kind of was like, why would we have J.J. Abrams, the guy who just made Star Trek, make Star Wars movies?
So I thought the yeah. Well, I have to admit, I really liked his first movie with like the remake Star Trek. I thought it was really good. Then I thought Star Trek started just kind of rehashing old ideas. But, you know, bringing in Khan, they just basically redid Khan. And I get it, you know, it's supposed to have been rebooted because time travel again. So, but yeah.
That's it.
All right, conventions I'll give to you because I can't really put up an argument unless we go back 20, 30 years.
So you know what?
So history.
I wouldn't even. I think we dropped these last two, Steve, because we're coming up to a couple coming up to it. I think we talk which one we pick, and then I want to go into this last point because I definitely want to have that quick conversation before. But so overall, which one? What's your? What's your main pick? What do you if you had to pick one and live with it?
Still Star Trek.
That's unfortunate. I mean, you do sleep in Star Wars blankets behind you, but no,
Because
sorry.
I don't discriminate. I go to where I like. But if you're making me choose one or the other, I'm going to go the old and wise, true, real sci-fi instead of let's just make as many explosions and noise for kids that we can.
Oh yeah,
That's where I'll
okay.
go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, Star Wars is definitely better, so everyone knows this. I mean, what's the value? How much did George Lucas make off of Star Wars? And how much did Gene make? Oh, right. Anywho, no,
Actually, it's arguable to say who's made more money. I don't mean Gene versus George, because George was much smarter with his merchandising, smart and money. But overall, I don't know if I'd say Star Wars has made more money than Star Trek overall of time.
I would
There's all the
say,
syndication and shows and
yeah, no, I would. You know what? We're gonna have to Google this. Let's see. We're gonna Google it right now, Steve. Anywho, nope. So it seems we're at a stalemate again, Steve, and we all know that Star Wars is better. You just won't admit it.
Elena, my daughter just walked in, the youngest. What's better, Star Trek or Star Wars? Ah,
Yes.
grade by my own kind. Brutal. I even tried to give her a wink and a nod.
Yes, there we go. There you go. I knew she. I know
It's
she.
for kids.
She was my. She was my
It's for
favorite.
people.
I knew she was my favorite. I knew she was my favorite. Yeah. Okay.
Anywho, you had one last thing before we wrap up.
Goes to Star Wars film series exceed the profit of the Star Trek film series by 6 times, while the
I believe that was the movies.
while the entire franchise outgrosses the other by 4 times. Okay, I'd have to reread that. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, which franchise?
Yeah.
So,
Anywho, yes. So the last little point that we should probably touch base on, and I'd like to talk about, Steve, with you, is regrets on gaming. Things that you may have.
I forgot I added that in.
Forgot that you are the ones that you've either traded in, sold, lent.
Bet you we both have a list we could go with, but
Oh yeah.
we had to talk about a main or two. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, so to me, my first thing that the one that I regret not buying is the Game Boy Micro, the gold edition that they released. I wanted it so bad, man. It was $100 and something. Like it wasn't that much, but as a 17-year-old kid or 18-year-old kid, whatever, how old I was,
A good chunk of your change, yeah.
exactly. And I never did it. And now they're worth like $800, so I'm never gonna buy it. But yeah, that's probably my biggest. And if I could think of something that got traded, I'm sure there's something. Nothing off the top of my head. I mean, no, that's a lie. My GameCube collection. Like it was just because it's again same thing with the age. I didn't keep my games, right? I traded things when I wanted the next game. So I my Mario Kart Double Dash, my Animal Crossing, my Super Mario Sunshine.
Ouch.
Yeah, like just all that, like all the stuff now that's worth 90, 100, 150 bucks.
Yeah.
That I would like to, like, I'd love to play Mario Kart Double Dash again. Would love to. It's like $95 or $100. I don't love it to play it that much.
Yeah, it's hard to justify at that price, especially having to set everything up and get it. Yeah. I shouldn't say set it up, but getting it all again. So for me, nothing as bad as yours, but my biggest regret would probably be getting rid of my 3DO version 2. So I gave that away to somebody, and I kind of regret it. But at the same time, I still had a 3DO. But to complete, so I have the Gold Star, I have the Panasonic, but they're both disc loading. I wanted the top loader simply because it's less to go wrong. That's the one I gave away. It was actually offered back to me because the person wasn't using it anymore after years. But when I got it back, it was all rusted out and just beat. And I think I was telling you one time in one of these episodes, actually, that I wanted to see if I could restore it.
Yeah.
Out of things I wish I bought when I had the chance but didn't, it would be the sports edition of the Sega Dreamcast. I was could have picked it up for $70. I think it was less, actually. I think 70 was with shipping. I think it was like $40, and it was an eBay bid, and it was purchased, and it was actually through someone I know, so I wouldn't even had to done the shipping. I could have just grabbed it from them. But I got outbid by like $2, and I just was on the fence of already getting it because I already had a Dreamcast,
Right.
but I wanted it simply because it's black, and everything I had at the time, for the most part, was black, and so that's probably my biggest regret, because trying to pick one of those up now, no way.
I got one just over
Yes,
there.
I know you have one.
It turns on. It just doesn't take control inputs or read a disk. So we'll have to.
Jeez, I wouldn't even care. I would just take the shell off and put it on my working one.
Yeah, that's true too. I could do that. Or we just take it off and see if we could fix it. As long as we don't damage the
As soon as
shell.
we can actually see each other.
Yeah, I know, eh?
Yeah, there's that.
Anywho, Steve, good sir. Well, we're coming up to time here. We're up about, I don't know how long we've been recording for, but we were going pretty good. So, as it's been determined, Star Wars is better. I mean, Steve has a bunch of Star Wars stuff in his house.
Disagree.
As well as Star Trek, and I've got no Star Trek stuff in my house, so clearly Star Wars is better.
There's definitely a thing for the educated versus the uneducated here, but yeah, okay.
Okay, sure. We'll leave it to the fans to decide. So leave us some comments below, or
come on, all 50 of you, leave something.
At least say something, guys. Watch us to this point in the show. Don't wait. Just don't only watch us for the 5 minutes. Watch us for the whole time. Anyone who's been watching us this whole time,
listen to us,
and listen to us. Yes, actually, we've been getting a lot more
podcasts. Yeah,
a lot more listeners, which is great. So everyone who's listened to us, thank you. We appreciate it. Steve and I are enjoying this. We've been doing this for, 12 episodes now, Steve, which is crazy. 12 weeks, man. 12 weeks. We're like through the first trimester of a pregnancy.
Yeah, our baby bot is coming along nicely. We can tell everyone about it now. We're past the first trimester.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Anywho, Steve, as always, Ben, good chatting with you. We'll be chatting with you next week, I'm sure. Steve,
keep collecting,
keep gaming,
keep safe.
And now I'm gonna let this run a little bit longer, and I'm gonna stop the recording right now.